Robert just played that video of President Biden eating the ice cream cone with Seth Meyers. Let's talk more about that sit-down interview. Dozens of protesters ahead of it arrested at NBC's headquarters in New York City ahead of Biden's interview with late-night host Seth Meyers. That group of pro-Palestine supporters entered the lobby where the show is recorded. Videos show the group in black shirts with the words "ceasefire now." Again, all of this leading up to that sit down. And during that very rare interview with Seth Meyers, President Biden tried flipping the narrative about concerns over his age.
And this isn't a gotcha show, but I do want to ask about it, that says you are currently 81 years old.
Who the hell told you that?
Yeah. How do you address that concern going forward as you come up to the 2024 election?
Well, a couple things. Number one, you got to take a look at the other guy. He's about as old as I am, but he can't remember his wife's name.
Yeah.
And it's about how old your ideas are. Look, I mean, this is a guy who wants to take us back. He wants to take us back on Roe v. Wade. He wants to take us back on a whole range of issues that are 50, 60 years they've been solid American position.
Yeah, this show, Seth Meyers, that was friendly territory for President Biden. And by the way, it's the first time that we've seen President Biden sit down for an interview in quite some time. And compared to his predecessors, he's far behind in giving interviews and press conferences. Kelsey Kernstein has been crunching the numbers for us when it comes to presidents and their relationship with the press. Kelsey, what'd you find?
Hey there, Markie. Good morning. So President Joe Biden, of course, has received a lot of backlash for giving so few interviews and press conferences during his first term in office. And when you compare him to past presidents, it really is a stark contrast. Now, I've been breaking down the numbers, and President Biden has conducted 87 interviews since taking office. Former President Donald Trump had completed 300 interviews by his third year. And more than both of them, former President Barack Obama did 422 by this point in his presidency. And most notably, and probably most recently, President Biden again skipped the annual Super Bowl interview for the second year in a row. But let's remember, he is not the first president to do this. In fact, former President Donald Trump refused an interview with NBC back in 2018. This comes after a disagreement over the network's coverage of his administration and his criticism of the NFL. But presidents have sat for interviews ahead of the Super Bowl for nearly 2 decades. It is an American tradition that began with then-President George W. Bush back in 2004. Now, looking into the number of press conferences, history does show that it has varied from president to president. But President Biden's small numbers, they do stand out. By the end of 2023, Biden had only given 33 news conferences. It marks the fewest in a president's first 3 years since Ronald Reagan. Now, by comparison, 3 years into their terms, Trump had held 52 news conferences and Obama 66. And Markie, that very moment, take a look at this, that Seth Meyers and President Biden had ice cream while talking about the war in the Middle East and then telling the media what his national security team is telling him. We will go ahead and leave that up to the voters to decide on how that plays out. Markie?
Yeah, and how that landed with a whole lot of people last night. Also, what's the political strategy there with far fewer press conferences and sit-down interviews? We'll delve into that later on, too, with some expert guests. Kelsey, thank you so much. Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.